So, the Powerpuff Girls reboot. Let's be blunt. There's been a lot of shit thrown in this show's way, even before it premiered 2 years ago, to lukewarm reception. It has more people disliking it than liking it, but I don't know, some people take that dislike a bit too far. With all the vitriol that's been thrown in the reboot's way, I think it's only fair that someone should stand up in the show's favor. And with the show continuing to 2018, to the skepticism and surprise of others, this feels like a good time to talk about why I like this new take on my favorite cartoon characters. Because, you know, despite what the internet says, not everyone hates it. So if you give me about 15 minutes or so, I'll play defense for Powerpuff Girls 2016.
Now let's begin!
The original show is no doubt a classic. It introduced the world to pretty much the most recognizable girl superheroes that aren't under Marvel or DC's banner, and were the first heroes I saw on TV growing up. While the show had a simple, flat style, it always managed to feel amazingly grand thanks to an epic-sounding score and a great sense of energy in each episode. There was an unabashed bruteness in how everyone beat each other up, and it was great seeing a show where the girls were just as tough as the boys. Everything about the cartoon was just plain appealing. So is it any wonder that the Powerpuff Girls is my favorite cartoon of all time? Yeah, I didn't really watch it for its big chunk of its original run though, but that was because my family didn't have cable. We didn't have cable until 2002, and since we weren't one of those families with multiple television sets, I didn't get the chance to watch much of the series until the episodes started getting reruns on Boomerang a few years later. In the meantime, I watched the show at my grandparents' house, which I couldn't visit often. Their house was also the first place I ever saw the show, and while I'm at it, I also never really saw the movie in theaters as a kid, which hurts a bit, but actually, I'm not even sure if I would have had enough attention span to watch it back then. All that aside, I'm still a proud fan of the original show and have watched every single episode, being that I've pretty much lived through the good.
What's the matter? Tag on your tongue? Very well! Prepare to bow to your princess!
And through the not so good.
Mayor want toast! Mayor want toast!
Mr. Mayor, please understand, I am a scientist, not a repairman.
By the way, I can actually handle most episodes from the last 2 seasons of the original show. Yes, I'm that brave.
Mayor want toast!
Alright.
Anyways, the reboot was something I was looking forward to when it was announced back in 2014, even when we learned it would be happening without Craig McCracken, thanks to his contract with Disney, or the original voice trio for the girls, thanks to the new showrunners wanting to inject some new blood into the project. My enthusiasm for the revival wasn't dampened at all, and when it finally aired, yeah, I actually got what I wanted, a new version of the show with the girls still fighting crime, as well as being quite comedic. The reboot is just different enough to separate itself from the original, while still having enough in common to feel like the Powerpuff Girls, at least from my view. I adore that the reboot takes more risk on the comedy side, because even if the jokes don't always work, seeing the characters' new anime-esque facial expressions always guarantees me a laugh. And while the brutality of the fights have been dialed down, the aftermath from all the traded punches and kicks can still look pretty nasty. The new voice cast also does a fine job at portraying the girls, and it doesn't feel too jarring to go from hearing the old talent to hearing the new. Bonus points to Natalie Palamides, who gives her buttercup voice a nasally tone that fantastically delivers a hilarious, much more sarcastic take on the toughest fighter.
There's a bull in the kitchen! But he's not angry. He's making breakfast.
Ow, stop. Ow, go away. Hey, I am a bat. Can my thousands of friends live here rent-free?
Why, yes! Yes, they can! Come here, you!
Bubbles, stop!
Plus, I now have the opportunity to actually watch every new episode as they come out, something that I couldn't do with the first series. PPG 2016 definitely gets my approval, but obviously, there are people who don't agree with me on this. Like, really don't agree with me.
Bubbles! What's wrong? Is it too beautiful?
It's terrible!
Terrible?
And I can understand. It bothers me to see the show and its fans still receive ample amounts of hate even 2 years later. But I can sorta understand where that comes from, although said fans don't deserve to get made fun of, all because they want to appreciate the reboot. You see, I have this weird feeling that many people wrote the show off early because it does memetic jokes all the time, or that it's too weird, or there's not enough action. Well, first of all, Ignoring the fact that the mimetic jokes people always point out when criticizing the show are pretty much the only ones that have been made throughout the Reboot's now 70+ episode run. Even Craig McCracken wasn't about doing such gags when he was in charge, like with the Powerpuff Girls Rule special from 2009. And really? Cause it's too weird. It's a yab I don't hear a lot, yeah, but I have to talk about it because... What? PPG was always weird. Anybody remember when people joked about the premise? About how weird it was that a dude holed himself up in his basement, wanting so badly to make the perfect little girl? And the Rogues Gallery, from one-off baddies to reoccurring favorites, is home to a bunch of unique villains that you would never see in your average comic book. Face it, folks, PPG always was just a show that felt like it was made for the offbeat crowd. Just the fact that it was a mainstream hit is enough of a surprise.
There was one focus group where they said this is the worst cartoon ever made and whoever made it should be fired.
Now, that third thing, which is probably the most common thing thrown at the Reboot. PPG 2016 is heavy on the comedy and has slow action. To that I say, well, yeah, sure, it leans in more on the comedy side of action comedy than the original show did, being more silly and goofy. And I can get how that can turn some people off. But we need to remember that the original was also pretty ridiculous. It always presented itself more as an action-heavy comedy, rather than a comedy-heavy action cartoon. It didn't take itself too seriously outside certain episodes, with a decent amount not even having much fighting outside the beginning or end, and there were even a few episodes that didn't have any real fights, like the much beloved Best Rainy Day Adventure ever.
Fly, 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 fly. Pow, fly, 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 fly.
Not every story was on the hardcore level of Live or Let Dynamo, where we literally see thousands of people die in front of our eyes. But apparently, the girls doing more wild takes and winding eyes than they used to is considered to be a disastrous stain on the Powerpuff legacy. Right, actually, let's talk about that. The wild take thing, not the legacy thing. The girls being more expressive and even going off model at times is a good thing if they're going to double down on the jokes. The original show, I admit, was rather bland in that area. It has moments of course, but for the most part, you rarely saw the characters doing a reaction phase or pushing an exaggerated expression that was amusing all on its own. It was a limited style, which to be fair was the idea. Heck, McCracken once said that the show's look lent itself really well to flash animation. But the Reboot, you can tell, wanted to take a few more risks on how funny these characters can look and be. And it's refreshing, although I do admit it can sort of overdo it at times. I admire the animators for taking such an approach. There's still a few risque jokes scattered around the show similar to the original series, an example being Bluebell kissing Buttercup right on the lips, which just never gets old to me because how surreal that is to see. Even if there's less action, there's still enough to get the job done. The Reboot also places more attention on the girls themselves, which I really like. For a show called the Powerpuff Girls, the original focused on the villains quite a bit. The saying goes that a hero is only as good as his villains, and in some cases, that notion has its merits, but when I was younger, I remember cheering on the girls way more than I cared about the villains. So giving the girls more focus, I think, was also the right move, as their antics with each other do deserve just as much comical attention. Plus, it's just nice to have a show with female protagonists again. Like every other kids network not called Disney Channel, Cartoon Network is filled with boy-dominated media where female characters have supporting roles rather than standing out as leads, if even that. For as great as Steven Universe is, with the fact that all of the gems are female, the main character is male, his name is the show's title, and pretty much everything is from his perspective, I hesitate to give the show that many props. Unikitty, aka that show everyone doubted for months but then turned out to be really good, only came out a few months ago. So for a while, Mighty Magiswords was the only other show Cartoon Network had with a female co-lead in Vampire Warrior. That show is also great by the way and you should totally watch it. All in all, I really like the Reboot, so it's just a shame that the original fanbase seems just harsh and sour on the whole thing. Sure, I'm not forcing anyone to watch it, but this? Being the worst thing to happen to Cartoon Network? Yeah, that's one hell of a stretch, considering some of the channel's actual low points.
Real kids doing real stuff in real situations. Wednesday nights on CN Real.
While we're talking PPG, I should also bring up Powerpuff Girls Z, cause for all the talk surrounding the Reboot, people seem to forget that there was an attempt at making an anime installment in the Powerpuff Girls franchise about a decade prior to the current show. Frankly, the anime should have aired in the US. It had an English dub, so they could have premiered it after the 10th anniversary special and put in Saturday mornings alongside Pokemon. But I digress. I bring up Z because it no doubt took even more risks than the current installment of the franchise, such as not making the girls sisters, giving the professor a son who has a robot dog, making one of the Amoeba boys a girl, making the Green Gang's little Arturo a girl. Wait, what's with all the male villain groups suddenly having token girls? Anyways, giving Princess Morbucks an older sister, having everyone's powers be a product of Chemical Z, not X, and the list goes on. A list that includes, for some reason, lots of one-shot villains and plots that involve food. Even fans of PPGZ joke about how weird that bit is. Personally, I remember liking the anime despite how different it was, but with all the liberties it took with the source material. After the reboot premiered, it seems like the hate feel towards the anime has softened, at least among those fans who remember or know that anime Powerpuff was even a thing. Maybe the people who dislike the new show now see the anime as the lesser of two evils? My editor certainly remembers seeing this anime get a lot of flack back in the day. Or maybe it doesn't count because it wasn't produced in the United States. Though, another country loving PPG so much that they made their own version only makes it that much more noteworthy. Or maybe it's because of some other nonsense. Either way, it's a nice curious little show to watch, and the fact that popular opinion on PPGZ has shifted to be more positive over the past decade makes me hope that one day the same will happen for Powerpuff Girls 2016. See, this is the big reason behind making this video, to tackle the hate that the reboot has been receiving from those who are way too hateful towards the series and anyone who watches it. To push back against everyone who insults the taste of anyone like me who dares to find joy in Powerpuff Girls 2016, like the act of thinking the show is even just okay, is a bullet to their childhood. To say nothing of those who attack the creative staff behind the show for any mistake or for any perceived misstep, like the Jared Shapiro incident. No matter how bad you think a show is, no one working on it deserves to be attacked so harshly. It sucks to be in the minority opinion, attacked and insulted by people who have nothing better to do that day but to bully others for enjoying something they don't. No lie, it hurts sometimes, knowing that even some of my friends absolutely loathe the show. But I've slowly learned how to treat and respond to all that hate, and it hasn't stopped me from watching the reboot or enjoying it whatsoever. Once again, I'm not forcing anyone to watch it. I'm just saying that, really, if you don't like it, just feel free to ignore it because it's just a cartoon. It's not ruining your life, and it's not a mockery of the original show, it's just a cartoon. Sure, a remake of a cartoon that you loved, but no matter how you see it, it's just a cartoon. It's not as though the original is lost to time, and this is all we have left. That classic cartoon that entire generation grew up loving is still there for you to enjoy and share with others. From where you're standing, fine. The 2016 version of the Powerpuff Girls may or may not be a bastardization of something that was a big part of your childhood. I'll begrudgingly accept that, as hyperbolic as that stance is. But from where I'm standing, it's a really fun return to the first superheroes I ever saw on television that manages to brighten up my day whenever I catch an episode. And by the same token, maybe you could try and accept that. Thanks for listening. Hey, thanks again for watching this video all the way through. There's pretty much nothing in the way of positive videos on the Reboot online, and that just didn't seem right. So I wanted to give a perspective that hasn't been seen despite the show being on air for 2 years. Do you know that 2 of the show's storyboarders are getting their own series? Julia Vickerman's 12 Forever hits Netflix next year, and Diego Molano's Victor and Valentino should be showing up this fall on CN. You can even watch the pilots of those shows right now. Nice to see some of the Reboot's talent go on to make some of their own stuff. What else? Oh, thanks to Rack Attack Force for helping me write and edit this, and thanks to Captain Bizarre for hosting this video on his channel. Go check his other stuff, which are mostly old Cartoon Network promos and commercials. He posts lots of those. Wrap yourself up in nostalgia with Zoo Books, Chef Boyardee, Chia Pets! Okay, I'm done. See ya.